Hi everybody, so for our vlog today, we'll be playing with makeup and I'm actually thinking of creating a holiday look because we have a lot of holiday parties to attend to this season, and I'm seeing some greens in our eyes and maybe reds on our lips and our cheeks. But let's just play along and see where this will actually go, and I'm hoping that this might be inspiring for you to try as well. Okay, so the first thing that we'll do is we'll be using this Lisa Eldridge Skin and Makeup Enhancing Mist. I'm just gonna spray a little bit of this all over. Now, I already have my skincare down, so everything is listed down on the description box, okay? Alright, so I'm just gonna pat that in. And then for foundation, I have decided to use the limited edition release from Kiko Milano. This is their Holiday Wonderlights foundation concealer, and I actually have been enjoying this past few weeks. And I really love the consistency of this. Look at that, it's quite moussey. And let me just spread this a little bit. Now, I do apologize again if you can hear this, electric sewing going on. My neighbor has been renovating their home for a year now and they're still not finished. And if at any time that I would create vlogs and think of waiting until they're finished, I'll never get anywhere. But anywho, I love the consistency of this. It's actually very easy to use. You can go on and be be very full with your coverage, or you can be very minimal depending on how much you use. But for us today, I'm going to be going for a medium type of a coverage because that's just enough for us to wear foundation whenever it's a party that we're going to. And by the way, I'm using this Eihodo Maiko brush. It's fantastic. It's actually able to help me buff out this foundation. Again, I'm liking the glow that I see. It's actually fantastic, especially at this time of the year when it's colder here. Well, I'm sure it's not as cold as the countries in the Western Hemisphere. But I like the silkiness that I see here. I like the glow because at least it's not making my skin look dry. So for my concealer today, I'm using two shades from the NARS Soft Matte Concealer. I'm going to be mixing these two together. And I already have it here in my palette, this one. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I am finding the color Custard, this one, to be a little bit too light for me. So adding the color Tiramisu here just kind of deepens it a little bit because I don't want to have a very bright under eye. I just want it to be balanced. Especially if you are gonna be photographed and most parties are gonna be at night. You don't really want that very bright highlight in your under eye area because it's gonna look bad in photos. Okay, with the TS6 here from Sonia G, I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of the concealer and just pat it in the areas where I want coverage. As always, usually here in the inner portion of my eye and also a little bit here in the corners. Okay, blend it out in an upward motion and then buff it into my cheeks. Okay, now just tap it for more coverage. And with whatever is left on the brush head, I'm gonna do the rest of my under eye. Now, by the way, I am using a mixture of natural light and artificial light today because it's cloudy and it's actually raining. So I just hope that it won't pour for us as we are doing this video. Okay, so I'm just gonna finish up this other eye now. Alright, so let's go on to blush, and I have here the color Red Velvet from Danessa Myricks. This is her Blurring Balm Powder Flushed, and this is a limited edition color. And it has this very nice red shade, which I actually love. And don't be scared with this color. I'm gonna be using a buffer brush here. So this is the sheer buffer from Sonia G, and I'm just gonna tap it lightly here in the highest points of my cheeks. And I'm seeing that I have too much of the pigment here on the brush head, so let me remove the excess here at the back of my hand and let me buff that out. So what I love about this color is that even if it's red, it kind of shifts its color, especially on me because I am someone who has olive undertones in my skin. So it just brings down the redness and it just has a nice way of actually adding a nice flush into my cheeks. Love that. And then with the brush that I used earlier for the foundation, let me blend those two together, but I'm just concentrating, adding whatever is left of the foundation. Here are the edges of the blush, just so that it blends nicely. And I'm gonna do that here as well. Love the shade. Fantastic. Okay, so I have a thin layer of the blush down. This is not going to be my final blush application yet, so maybe later I might decide to add a bit more of the blush at the end of the video, or maybe set it with, like, you know, powder of the same tone. So we'll get back to this a little bit later, but at least now we have some color going on. Okay, so I have some powder here. I'm gonna put a little bit of this Laura Mercier setting powder here on the cap, and with this brush I'm just going to set my concealer, really pat it in, and then I'm going to leave a little bit of the powder residue. I'm not gonna buff that out in order for us to catch, like, you know, all the fall down that might happen when we're doing the eye look. And now with the master face brush, I'm gonna pick up more of the powder here on the cap, remove the excess, and just set the rest of my face with powder, just so that we don't have a very, like, you know, glowy look going on this part of the video. So I'm just avoiding applying the powder on top of my blush because I want to keep that silky look going on, so the blush is mixing with the foundation and they're working very well together. And maybe I might not use some highlighter later. Okay, so now it's time for us to play with our eyes, and I'm gonna start first with an eyeshadow base. This is from Lisa Eldridge, and this is actually the color Gaia. Now, what I love about this color, it has a hint of, like, you know, warmth in it, which will be a perfect base for our eyeshadow, because this will just, like, you know, really counteract with the green tones that I'm gonna be using, and this will just, like, you know, really give a nice base look, because I'm going for a nice smoky eye look. So this, like, you know, reddish base can already work as the right foundation to make the eyeshadow color pop on my eyes later. So I'm just applying a very thin layer. I'm using the Shodo 00 brush from Refer, and what I love about this eye base from Lisa is that it gives you enough play time to actually, like, you know, apply and then to build and also to buff. Very easy to use. Okay, fantastic. You thought that it was going to be a very red eyeshadow base, right? But not at all. This is a very nice color, especially if you are someone like me who has olive undertones. You know, the oliveness of your skin just has a way of toning down a lot of those, like, you know, red or, like, you know, warm tones in your makeup, and it kind of, like, neutralizes it a little to the point that it just gives you this very nice, like, you know, shade going on without diminishing the color of the product that you're using. Okay, so I'm just stretching out the eyeshadow now, because we always need to ensure that we have a very nice wide-eyed look all the time. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm going to apply some eyeliner, and I'm gonna be using this, like, you know, deep green color here. So this is from the Sorcery palette of Lisa. I'm just going to load this, like, you know, small pencil brush from the Sonia G Japanese Garden collection, and I'm gonna apply that first here as close to my lash line as possible, creating definition for my eyes first, because I'm actually planning of using this shade on top and maybe a little bit of this, so I don't want to, like, you know, flick any of those shimmers and have fall down in my upper cheeks. So always start by defining the eyes first. You know, always do the groundwork that you need for your eyes, and it's just going to make everything so much easier. Okay, so I've just laid down the foundation of the area where I like to put eyeliner. So I'm just gonna buff out the edges now. Really smoke it out. Hang on, let me get another brush. Okay, so this is the TS3, and I'm just going to buff out the edge of that. You can smoke it out a little bit, but not too much. And now I'm gonna add a little bit of the green using the small pencil brush here in my lower lash line now. And I'm gonna apply it all the way into the inner corner, okay? And with whatever is left on the brush here, I'm just going to add a little flick here in the outer area. but not too much. Just enough to give me like a hint of a flick, because after all, I'm doing a smoky eye look today. Well, like, you know, sort of a smoky eye. So I don't need a strong flick in the outer edge. So this would be like, you know, just a guide for me to know where my, like, you know, smokiness should end a little bit later. Alright, you guys, so in some twist of fate, the palette where I transferred all of my Lisa Eldridge eyeshadows slipped from my table and it smashed on the floor. And of all the unfortunate things that happened, the eyeshadow that I wanted to use with us today crumbled, and there's just a little bit of it left here on the pan. So I'm just kind of glad that this is still, like, you know, we still have enough to play with here. And I'm also glad that I'm actually able to buy, like, you know, individual colors from Lisa's eyeshadow. So I'm sorry if at this point of the video the eyeshadows are now jumbled. I have to rearrange them after this is done, but at least we still have, like, you know, enough of the color that we'll be using to play for our video today. Anywho, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish this eye first, and then I'm gonna do this, like, you know, off camera so that it saves time. Okay, all right, so right now I have the color Night Forest. This is the eyeliner from Lisa, her Seamless Glide eye pencil, and this is what I'm gonna use here on my lashes as our first layer of eyeliner. So I'm just, like, you know, rubbing it in as close to my lash line as possible. I'm not being very specific with it, but this should just give us enough, like, you know, intensity and definition, but still staying in the same, like, you know, green tone that I'm going for. So I'm just really tapping in the eyeliner. Like, I'm not worried if it's gonna be straight or not. And the main reason why is because the eyeshadow that I applied previously will actually work as a diffusing factor. So at least now, like, you know, all I have to worry about is to make sure that I will apply the eyeliner as close to my lash line as possible. It's gonna give me amazing definition, and it's already making my eye color pop out. All right, and now I'm gonna get this very nice red tone here. So this is the powder eyeshadow from Danessa Myricks Groundwork Defining Neutrals palette. I'm using the TS3 brush here from Sonia G. Gonna pick up a little bit of this, remove any excess, and I'm gonna apply that into my socket line. I'm gonna use this color, like, you know, as a defining color that will just, like, you know, enhance my socket line. And I like the warmth that I see in this tone, because for sure this will already work in counteracting with the green tones that I'm going for today. And it's actually very easy to diffuse and very easy to apply. I am actually loving the formula of these, like, you know, eyeshadow pigments from Danessa. Super. Okay, so now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to spray a little bit of Lisa's mist into this brush. This is the Hakuhodo S139. And then I'm going to dip that into this eyeshadow here. I am hoping that I will still be able to pick up, like, you know, this color. Yeah, I can see that we still can. So let's tap this into the mobile lid now. And I can see that it's actually still working for us. It's still quite even. And it's giving drama into the eyes. Okay, so I'm just, like, you know, slowly building the intensity of the eyeshadow and just buffing it also lightly. Okay, and with whatever is left on the brush head, I'm just gonna run that all over the rest of my mobile eyelid. Okay, so I'm seeing that the pigment went way too low, so let me add the Night Forest eyeliner. That should neutralize it. Perfect. I love that. Very easy to layer these eyeshadow products from Lisa Eldridge. Okay, so I just want to add a little bit of definition into my socket line. So I'm going to be using this Hakuhodo G6081 brush, and I'm going to be using this deep, like, you know, sooty green color that I used, like, you know, on my lash line earlier. Pick up just a little bit And then I'm just going to mount that into my socket line and just buff it also lightly. Now what I love about this brush is that it already has like, you know, a pointy tip. So I can actually lay that tip here into my socket line, and it actually applies a nice hint of definition. Still very soft, which is fantastic. Then because it's also at an angle, I can actually lay it into my socket line, and I can also drag out the color softly outward. And then using the tip of this brush, I'm just going to lightly buff in the color here in the outer portions and ensure that the colors actually meet, and we have this very nice soft gradation of color and also well blended. And now I would like to use a mascara. So this is one of my most favorite tubing mascaras. This is a Filipino brand. This is from VMV Hypoallergenics, and this is their Ooh-La-Lash mascara. Nice volumizing mascara, adds length and also definition into my eyes. And what I love about this is that at the end of the day, it's so easy to remove, just like, you know, with a cleanser and hot water, which I absolutely love. Okay, so now we're going to add some falsies, because a night out is not complete without falsies. And this is actually like, you know, from the brand Remore. I don't know if that's a brand. Yeah, it should be Remore. And I actually bought this in Don Quixote when I was in Japan back during brush festival season. And I have not tried this on myself yet, but I find it so interesting because if we take a look at the band here, it kind of like flares out here at the outer corners, and I love falsies that are like that because that just really helps to lift the eye, especially from the corner. And like, you know, if we take a look at it, I don't know if you can see it. Okay, let me mount it properly like that. So it's really not that long, it's not overbearing, and for sure it will not be heavy. So like, you know, as you go through the party, like, you know, it lasts all night. Like, you know, it's not going to make your eyes droopy from the weight. Okay, so let's measure it first. Just gonna lay it on top. Okay, that should be good. And I love that it's not super dark because I don't want to, like, you know, cover up like all of this beautiful eyeshadow look that we created for this video. Right, so I'm gonna attach this lash now with some duo lash glue. Okay, so let's dry the glue a little bit before we mount it on our lashes. Okay, so I'm gonna lay the band now. I'm gonna start applying it here in the outer corner and just press it as close to my lash line as possible. Okay, lovely. What do you guys think? I love these eyelashes. I'm gonna remember this, and I'm going to buy tons of this when I go back to Japan next time. Okay, so before we move on to this eye, I'm just seeing that there is a cut in the band here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this eyeliner. Let me get a mirror here. And I'm just going to apply a hint of this black eyeliner from the inner corner all the way to the end of that lash band, just so that we have a much more, like, you know, continuous line there and it won't be so obvious. Fantastic. And also, like, you know, really completes the look. What do you guys think? So let me just apply a little bit of that here in the upper portion. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is with the Seamless Glide eye pencil, I'm just going to apply a little bit of this here in the outer portions of the lower lash line, just to add intensity. I love that. And with a small eyeliner brush, I'm just going to blend that out and buff it. And we're going to lift that and blend it into the socket line. And I'm gonna go back into this sooty green eyeshadow here, and I'm using the small eyeliner brush from what I used earlier, and I'm just going to continue to soften the edges of that eyeliner and really help extend my eye, create a lift. Fantastic. And with whatever is left on the brush head, I'm going to lightly brush that into my socket line. Okay, and I think that's this eye for now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish this eye off camera and then I'm gonna come back. Okay, so I have both my eyeshadow down now on both eyes. I am loving it. So as you guys can see, the eyeshadow is not too much, but it's just right, just enough to give like, you know, definition and a hint of smokiness, but we still have that sparkle, like, you know, that we see from this eyeshadow color that we used from Lisa that unfortunately broke earlier in the video. Okay, so what I'm seeing right now is I'm seeing a little bit of some shine, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a nice, like, you know, airy brush, and this is the Koyudo brush from Refer, by the way, and I'm gonna get just a little bit of this powder foundation, and I'm just gonna put it on top of the areas where I'm usually, like, you know, oily, just to bring down the glow, and that's always here in the inner portions of my cheeks, here on my chin, your forehead area, and I'm gonna just run a little bit of that here in the under eye. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little warmth into my cheeks, and I'm gonna be using my Guerlain Meteorite. So this is in the color Amber or Ombre, and this actually has, like, you know, some warmth in it. You can see some red tones, but I'm not really gonna overdo it, but, you know, just apply a hint of this. And I will be using this Koyudo Kakeshi Buzome brush to swirl the brush a little bit here on the pearls. And I'm just gonna add a hint of that on top of the cheeks. Fantastic. So it's gonna, like, bring warmth and also some hint of like, you know, redness that will go along with the blush that I used earlier. Fantastic. I love that. They're blending very well together. And then next, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to enhance my brows a little bit. Now I already did, like, you know, apply some brow products early in the video, but I see, like, you know, some portions were, like, you know, erased during, like, you know, the makeup process. So let me just, like, you know, add some minor details, but I'm not gonna overdo it because I don't want our eyebrows to cover up my eye look, because we have a very nice strong eye going on. And, you know, just enough shade to balance everything out. Alright, so my brows are now good in my book, and let's move on to lips. And I want to wear this shade. So this is the color Velvet Ribbon by Lisa, and it has a very nice neutral tone to it with a hint of pink. And I've loaded it here on my little spatula, and I'm going to apply it using this brush. This is the Hakuhodo S132. And I'm just gonna keep quiet now as I do this. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna perfect my lip, and I'm gonna be using this Makeup Forever Artist color pencil in the color Full Red, and I'm just going to line my lips, and I'm gonna keep quiet again. So that's the lips down. Lovely. What do you guys think? Fantastic. And just, like, you know, a final pass of the lipstick with whatever is left here on the brush head. And I love, like, you know, the contrast of color that we're seeing, like, you know, the balance. So beautiful. And if at this point you are finding that, like, you know, you're losing some blush, or feeling washed out, you can always use the blush that you used earlier, or if you want, you can even, like, you know, use whatever lipstick is left. So let's do that. Let's use the lipstick. So I'm just spreading a little bit of the lipstick here at the back of my hand. And with the brush that I used earlier for my blush, I'm just gonna pick up a little bit and just pat it on top. Okay, not too much, but just a hint. And with the brush that you use for the foundation, you can always just like, you know, blend that out and really press it into the skin. And a final pass of powder in the areas where I'm usually oily, but not too much. Like, you know, just enough to create balance. Now, I'm not gonna apply any more highlighter on my face today because, like, you know, the foundation that I use is a very nice and glowy foundation. So I know for sure, like, you know, as the night will go on, my skin will become very glowy and it's gonna mix perfectly with the, like, you know, a blush. And truthfully, I do have to say is that if you're using too much highlighter or too much, like, you know, glowy products, it actually won't look good in pictures. So just, again, like, you know, hold back and just only apply it as necessary, okay? And also one thing, by the way, do not in any way be scared of using green eyeshadows with red lipstick because they actually look fantastic together. Look at that, nice, like, you know, like a vampy kind of a sexy look. And it's not your typical smoky eye look, but this just gives enough, like, you know, color into the eyes and enough, like, you know, jewel tones to give sparkle into the night. Okay, so that's it for me today. If you guys have any more questions about all of the products that I used today, please let me know down in the comments box and let's have a conversation about it, okay? All right, so I'm gonna let you guys go now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Happy holidays, everyone.